The Simulated Artist, Dawson Hoo's AI Crisis. A story about his subway exhibit and an encounter with the simulated world theory.
Step back, doors closing.
In March 2024, the reclusive, rarely seen, but widely exhibited digital artist known as Dawson Hoo inspected the holograms of the life-size portraits he installed in the subways and stations of the Washington, D.C. metro system. In addition to holograms like the artist's self-portrait seen here, the metro exhibit contains rider triptychs, like this favorite, as well as surreal images like this one on the Strathmore subway platform. Mr. Hoo's studio is in an undisclosed location in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. The artist often rides the subways and takes pictures of the system and its riders.
I was approached by this artist to participate in his project. I know him from another life, from other activities, but I trusted him. I knew what he was going to do would be worthwhile, worth my time. I was happy to take part, but I also was very willing to keep his identity a secret. He is an important artist. I think his work reaches out to our times and reflects back on what is going on in our lives. And from that point of view, it's especially worthwhile.
The headshots you see on either side of me are Dawson Hoo portraits of a man named Joel Foreman. He's a Dawson Hoo fan and art collector, and he's been obsessed for years about meeting the artist in the flesh. When he first heard about Mr. Hoo's 2024 Metro exhibition, he decided to contact the artist's office with a request for a face-to-face interview.
It was a long shot, contacting Dawson Hoo's digital assistant to ask for a face-to-face with a guy who is obsessed about concealing his identity. But I'm a little obsessed myself, about meeting the artist. So I set up a Zoom session with the pit bull who guards the maestro's virtual fortress. Here's what happened.
This is the office of Dawson Hoo Associates. I'm Mr. Hoo's personal avatar. My name is Jade. What's your business with Mr. Hoo?
I'm Joel Foreman's avatar. You can call me J4. I'm a videographer. I've made a number of documentaries about artists, and I'm interested in making one about Mr. Hoo.
I've got a bot scraping the net for info on you. He says you were an English professor at George Mason University. That's you? You were hired in 1972? You're a pretty old guy.
It doesn't feel like 81 is supposed to feel. I do have my Joe Biden moments. Otherwise, I'm as good as I've ever been. Most important, I'm inspired and motivated by some world-class octogenarian artists. Picasso, Georgia O'Keeffe, Claude Monet. They were very productive well into their 80s.
My infobot says you've got good street cred. Seems like you and the boss would be simpatico.
I was looking for a chance to talk to Mr. Hoo directly.
Dream on. Mr. Hoo wants me to help you. As long as I'm a pit bull about protecting his privacy.
I certainly respect his desire for privacy, but I was hoping he might make an exception for a fellow artist who has enormous respect for creative people like himself.
My prime imperative, and get this, is to protect the boss's anonymity.
Tell your boss, I'm one of his top 10 fans. I'm like the Richard Dreyfuss character in Encounters of the Close Kind. I've got Dawson Hoo images burned into my brain. I gotta meet the guy. How about if you just tell me where he's gonna be one day and I run into him? Like a serendipitous encounter.
No way. Here's a statement he recorded for his fans and the media. Check it out.
Hey man, I've never tried doing a gig like this before. I'm tipping my hat to the great Norman Rockwell for the idea. Thanks also to Dave Wagonbottom for letting me use his face to conceal my identity. What I want to say today is this. With one exception, my daily life is overwhelmingly average, overwhelmingly mundane. And I like it like that. The one exception is the art, the creativity, the sticky visual experience. If people want to know about me, the best way to do it is to spend time looking at my creations.
I was conflicted. I respect Hoo, but I'd seen all his pictures and they were telling me, you gotta meet the guy. I couldn't help myself. So what did I do? Persevered, kept at it, soldiered on with some help from friends in the Secret Service. They had info about when Hoo would be checking out his holographic installations in the metro system. Came a rainy day in April. I set out to find the man. I rode the metro rails for a couple of hours in a futile effort to find Mr. Hoo. I saw a lot of his installations, but I didn't see him. I ended the search at the Gallery Place stop and the Museum of American Art. I wanted to see the Dawson Hoo work that was hung next to Chuck Close's portrait of Bill Clinton. That would have been the end of my quest, except the surprise call I got the next day from the artist's digital assistant.
This guy who calls himself J4, I like his spunk. So I'm here making my own video about myself. I told J4 he could use it in his video piece about me. This is it. When I was checking out my Metro exhibit installs, I experienced a moment of major cognitive dissonance. It was like a punch to the solar plexus. I was talking to some guy riding the rail to downtown DC. We were chit-chatting about nothing important, when out of nowhere he says it's easy to imagine that everything in our lives is a simulation. A simulation generated by a superintelligence to entertain itself. You, me, everybody, we're characters in a video game. It's not exactly a new idea. I've seen it before in a number of fictional works. The absurdist playwright Luigi Pirandello wrote a play in 1921 whose 6 characters claim they are more real than the actors playing them. In 1969, the sci-fi writer Philip K. Dick explored the simulation theory in his novel Ubik, and later claimed, "We are living in a computer-programmed reality." And more recently, the Keanu Reeves character in the Matrix movies discovers he's imprisoned in a neural simulation.
And this, my friends, is Dawson Hoo's problem. He's been discombobulated by some weird notions. Mostly he's a simulation, a computational artifact, but also related befuddling claims like this meme from the French postmodern philosopher Jacques Derrida. Oh, and by the way, you may be thinking, who am I? And where is Dawson Hoo? First, Mr. Hoo still wants to be the famous unknown artist. That hasn't changed. Second, I'm a hired head. I've been called in to handle public relations, while Mr. Hoo is indisposed and brooding about who or what he really is. He wants his public to know he's been taken down, so to speak, by the simulation theory. He's shocked, he says, to the core of his being.
Shocked to the core of my being. It's true, that's how I felt. Bowled over by the same shockwave that swept through time around 1957. Now I'm just glum, downcast, despondent. And I would say, dispirited. But if I'm a simulation, just something produced by an artificial intelligence, I'm all surface. There's nothing inside me. No soul, no animating spirit, no mind and no thoughts of my own. I can speak. I can say stuff, like that troubling deconstructive meme about the absence of presence. But where are the words coming from? For as long as I can remember, I've been taking Plato's advice. Know thyself. Where'd that get me? It's a paradox. To know myself is to know that I don't have a self. I'm just a digital age product, a node in a computer network, a simulation, a postmodern artifact, a flat and empty image manufactured by an artificial intelligence that's jerking my strings and pumping these words through a speaker on your device. Here's my riff on what I'm calling the big problem for people real and simulated in a postmodern world. Talking about it may settle me. The 1960s media guru, Marshall McLuhan, claimed that Sputnik, the first satellite to orbit the Earth, enclosed the planet in a man-made environment and signaled the arrival of an electronic age. That was 1957. There were 300 computers in the US. In 2024, there are hundreds of millions. McLuhan was right about the new age. He predicted that in the new electronic age, humanity would be translated into information. I'll let you ponder that one. I mean, a simulation is information. I get that. But how can real people be information? That's where the simulation theory comes in. Just suspend disbelief. Note that computerization in the US went from 300 units in 1957 to AI chatbots in ubiquitous cell phones in only 60 years. Now imagine a massively advanced artificial intelligence benefiting from accelerating technological invention for centuries. This would be a post-human AI able to build a quantum computer the size of a moon. A computer powerful enough to program a human simulation that feels so convincing that the simulated people inside it think their world is real. That's the simulation theory in a nutshell. The people who believe the theory cite as evidence the current generation of AI image-making apps. Consider my own situation. Someone like me, using an AI app to create images of people, can start with a real individual's photograph. Then run it through other apps that can transform it in numerous ways. The AI apps can even animate the images and make them speak.
A simulation that conceals the truth that there is no truth is true.
Marshall McLuhan's thoughts are relevant. If he were here, he might say, I think of art as a distant early warning system that can always be relied on to tell the old culture what is beginning to happen to it. The old art is paint on canvas and sculptured stone. The art of the new age post-modernity is being made by AI apps from bits and bytes.